Imagine a massive black shape breaks the surface of the water. It's longer than a school bus, heavier than a battle tank, and its head alone is bigger than most cars. A deep, explosive breath erupts from its blowhole, spraying a mist of salt and water high into the air. Then there's total silence, and it just disappears. It doesn't just swim away, it sinks. It dives straight down, leaving behind the world of sunlight, warmth, and familiar landmarks. It's heading into a place where the pressure is strong enough to crush steel, and sound travels faster than a bullet. This is the sperm whale. And if you follow the standard rules of biology we all learned in school, nothing about this animal should actually be possible. The sperm whale is the largest toothed predator to ever live on this planet. Let that sink in for a second. It's not just a big whale, it is the biggest hunter with teeth in the entire history of the Earth. It is significantly larger than a T-Rex and heavier than any shark that has ever existed. A full-grown male can reach over 20 meters in length and weigh more than 50 tons. But here's the truly crazy part. Despite being the size of a small building, this animal routinely dives deeper than any other mammal. It plunges over 2,000 meters into total, crushing darkness. To put that in perspective, if you flip Mount Everest upside down, the sperm whale would be diving deeper than the mountain is tall. And it does all of this while holding a single breath for over 90 minutes. Think about the last time you tried to hold your breath in a swimming pool. After 60 seconds, your lungs start to burn. After 2 minutes, your brain started panicking. The sperm whale stays in a high-pressure death zone for an hour and a half, fighting giant monsters in the dark, and it doesn't even break a sweat. If you look at a sperm whale, you'll notice something strange. Nearly 1/3 of its entire body is just its head. For centuries, humans were obsessed with figuring out what was hidden inside that massive, blocky skull. When whalers finally cut one open, they found a giant organ packed with hundreds of gallons of a mysterious, waxy oil. Because of what that oil looked like, early whalers completely misidentified it, and that's how the sperm whale got its name. Humans killed millions of these whales just to get their hands on that oil. We burned it in lamps to light the streets of London and New York. And we used it to lubricate the most delicate machines of the Industrial Revolution. But for all those years, we completely misunderstood what the whale was actually doing with it. That oil isn't just fat or fuel. It's a piece of high-tech military hardware. That giant head is actually a biological machine that turns the sperm whale into a living, acoustic cannon. Down in the deep, where the sperm whale hunts, eyes are completely useless. It is darker than a locked closet at midnight. Because of this, the whale stops looking and starts clicking. The sperm whale produces the loudest biological noise ever recorded in history. Its clicks can reach a staggering 230 decibels. To put that in perspective, a jet engine at takeoff is about 140 decibels. A gunshot right next to your ear is about 160 decibels. And a sound powerful enough to literally vibrate a human body to death happens at around 200 decibels. The sperm whale's click is so incredibly powerful that it can shatter the internal organs of small fish or stun a squid instantly. The whale uses its oil-filled head like a giant magnifying glass, focusing this massive wall of sound into a narrow, deadly beam. It's essentially firing a sonic bullet into the darkness. When that sound hits a target and bounces back, the whale's brain builds a perfect 3D map of its surroundings. It's so precise that the whale can tell the difference between a jagged rock and a soft squid from kilometers away. The sperm whale's favorite food is the stuff of actual nightmares. It hunts the giant squid and the colossal squid. Forget the tiny calamari rings you see at a restaurant. We're talking about deep-sea monsters with tentacles the size of trees and eyes the size of dinner plates. And here's the thing, they do not want to be eaten. We know these battles are incredibly violent because almost every adult sperm whale is covered with permanent circular scars. These aren't just marks, they are suction cup burns from squids fighting for their lives as they are dragged deep into the whale's jaws. Imagine the scene, 2,000 meters down in pitch black water. A 50-ton mammal and a half-ton squid are locked in a wrestling match that looks like a scene straight out of a Godzilla movie. The whale almost always wins, but it pays the price in torn flesh and battle-hardened skin. It is a gladiator that chooses to step into the most brutal arena on Earth every single day just to get some breakfast. At 2,000 meters deep, the water pressure is 200 times stronger than it is at the surface. To put that in perspective, if you or I were down there, our lungs would collapse like a crushed soda can, and our blood vessels would pop instantly. So, how does this whale survive? It doesn't try to fight the ocean, it actually stops fighting. Before it begins the dive, the whale's heart rate slows down to just a few beats per minute. It's like the animal is putting itself into a trance. It cuts off blood flow to non-essential parts of its body, like its skin and tail, and redirects every single drop of oxygen to its brain and heart. But here's the craziest part. Its lungs actually collapse on purpose. By letting its lungs flatten completely, the whale prevents nitrogen from getting into its bloodstream. This is what stops it from getting the bends, that deadly condition human divers get when they come up from the sea too fast. The whale doesn't try to be stronger than the pressure of the ocean. It surrenders to it, and that humble surrender is exactly why it survives. If you were to see a piece of sperm whale meat, you'd be shocked. It isn't pink like pork or light red like beef. It's almost completely black. This isn't because the meat is bad. It's because their muscles are packed with a special protein called myoglobin. Think about how we breathe. Humans store most of our oxygen in our lungs, but as we've seen, lungs are fragile. They collapse under pressure. So, the sperm whale does something genius. It stores its oxygen directly in its muscles and its blood. The whale's entire body is quite literally a living oxygen tank. When it dives, it isn't holding its breath in its throat like you do at the pool. It is slowly burning through the oxygen stored deep inside its very flesh. This is the secret to how it can vanish for so long. When a sperm whale is at the surface, it isn't just resting. It is plugged in, charging its biological battery until every muscle is saturated with oxygen, and once it's fully charged, it can leave our world behind. One of the strangest things humans have ever caught on camera is a group of sperm whales sleeping. They don't lie down, and they don't float on their sides. Instead, they drift vertically, standing perfectly straight up and down in the water like giant, living pillars. If you stumbled upon them, they would look like floating monoliths from an alien movie. They stay in this deep trance for only about 10 to 15 minutes at a time. Even while they rest, they are half conscious, with their ears always listening for the slightest sound in the dark. In the open ocean, sleeping like a log is dangerous. So, the sperm whale evolved the weirdest, most haunting power nap in the animal kingdom. The social life of a sperm whale is a story of extreme opposites. More like a drama played out across thousands of miles of open ocean. The females are the community leaders. They live in tight-knit, sophisticated families for their entire lives. They even have a system of babysitters, where some adults stay at the surface to protect the calves, while the moms dive deep into the darkness for food. They are constantly clicking, talking, and checking in on one another. But for the males, life is very different. They have a much darker story. The males are the outcasts. Once a young male reaches a certain age, he is essentially kicked out of the group. From that moment on, he becomes a wanderer. He will spend the next 40 to 50 years roaming from the North Pole to the South Pole in almost total solitude. He spends his life as a ghost in the system, wandering the vast blue desert alone. He only meets other whales for a few days a year to mate, and then he returns to the silence. It is one of the loneliest lives of any animal on Earth. A life of legendary power, lived out in complete isolation. Sperm whales don't just click to find food, they click to talk. They use complex patterns of sound called codas to communicate with one another. But here is where it gets truly mind-blowing. Different groups of whales actually have different accents. A whale from the Caribbean speaks a completely different click language than a whale from the Pacific. These patterns aren't something they are born knowing instinctively. They are skills that are passed down from mother to child. This means sperm whales have culture. They have their own traditions. They have names for their specific groups, and they have an identity. Right now, scientists are listening to their conversations, but we're like people trying to read a complex computer code without the manual. We know they're saying something incredibly important, we just aren't smart enough to translate it yet. We aren't just looking at a giant animal anymore. We are looking at a giant with non-human intelligence. The sperm whale possesses the largest brain of any creature known to ever exist in the history of life on Earth. It is roughly 6 times the size of yours. But this brain isn't designed for solving math problems or writing poetry. It is a biological supercomputer built for one thing: 3D sound processing. Imagine trying to navigate a world with no floor, no walls, and zero light, where your only guide is a series of echoes. The sperm whale's brain is designed to turn those echoes into a high-definition physical map. It doesn't just hear the world, it feels the shape of the world through its ears. And here is the part that is truly haunting. When a sperm whale looks at you, it isn't just seeing your face. Because its sonar is so powerful, it can see right through you. It sees your skeleton, it hears the rhythm of your heartbeat, and it watches your lungs expand. To a sperm whale, you aren't a solid object. You are transparent. Because sperm whales are so perfectly tuned for the deep sea, the shallow water is actually their greatest enemy. When sperm whales strand on beaches, it's often because they're completely confused. Human noise, like giant ship engines or military sonar, is like someone screaming at the top of their lungs directly in the whale's ear. It breaks their acoustic map. They get lost in a world they can no longer see. Once they hit shallow water, the very body that protects them in the deep becomes a deadly trap. Without the water to float them, their own massive weight literally crushes their internal organs. The animal that can survive 200 times the pressure of the atmosphere is killed by the simple gravity of a beach. The sperm whale feels wrong to us because it evolved in a world that is the polar opposite of our own. We live in the light, while they live in total darkness. We live in the air, they thrive under crushing pressure. We see with our eyes, and they see with their foreheads. If a sperm whale could think about us, it would probably think that we are the impossible monsters. To them, we are fragile, dry, blind creatures who can't even hold our breath for 3 minutes. When we think of monsters of the deep, we usually imagine scary, mindless beasts lurking in the dark. But the sperm whale isn't a monster. It is a solution. It is what happens when life decides to conquer the hardest, most punishing place on this planet. It proves that you don't need a comfortable environment to become a masterpiece. You just need the right tools and the will to adapt. The next time you look out at the ocean, take a moment to really think about what's happening out there. Remember that somewhere, 2 kilometers beneath those waves, a 50-ton giant is holding its breath in the pitch black. Right now, it is firing a sonic cannon into the void, hunting massive monsters, and living a life that defies every single rule we think we know about biology. The sperm whale doesn't make sense to us. It shouldn't exist. And in a world that often feels too small, too mapped out and too explored, that mystery is exactly why we need it. It is a reminder that the greatest stories on Earth aren't being written on land. They are being lived out in